Alright, welcome back to the channel. I'm here with my first mock draft of the year. There will be two trades in this mock draft, and I cover only the first round with this one. So please like, share, and subscribe. I'm going to try and do at least 4 videos a day, or a week, sorry. And yeah, let's get into this. Now, there may be some controversial takes. I want to hear what you guys have to say in the comments. So with the first pick, I have Trevor Lawrence going to the Jacksonville Jaguars, the worst kept secret of the entire draft. He is the best quarterback in the draft. He's the best draft prospect in a long, long time. Yeah, there's not much else to say. I think Urban Meyer tried to recruit him very heavily when he was at Ohio State. New coach there. I think it's a match made in heaven. As much as Jacksonville has struggled to develop quarterbacks in the past, I think Trevor Lawrence could be that franchise guy, and they better hope so. Now, with the second pick, I have my first trade, and that's going to be the Cincinnati Bengals trading their first and their third round pick to the New York Jets to move up a couple places and take Penei Sewell. Now, the Bengals need tackle help, and I know they drafted that guy from Alabama a few years ago. He's not the greatest, but Penei Sewell is a once-in-a-generation tackle prospect. Joe Burrow went down with an ACL injury. He got hit a lot last season. You got to protect the quarterback. That's the number one thing. You need a pass rusher, a quarterback, and some protection of the quarterback. And Penei Sewell gives you that and more. He's an elite tackle. He's the best one we've seen in a long time. And I think that he'll really support this Bengals team and really help them take it to the next level and support their golden goose in Joe Burrow. Next, with the third pick, I have the Miami Dolphins taking the shock of the season, DeVonta Smith, the Heisman winner. I think that Tua pairing up with his former Alabama teammate is a big deal here. Obviously, they got this pick from Houston. I think this could be subject to change if Deshaun Watson is moved and Miami is one of his landing spots. Obviously, another pick in this draft will determine that too. But I think that let's go with the fact that Deshaun Watson is probably going to stay in Houston. I say Miami gets the most exciting wide receiver in the draft. Had the best season out of all of them this year. He didn't get injured. Heisman winner, and to his former teammate. Yeah, I think it's a match made in heaven in that respect. With the fourth pick, I have the Atlanta Falcons taking Zach Wilson. I know Matt Ryan is a very good quarterback, and Falcons fans have reminded me that plenty in the comments. However, I think that it's time for them to get someone like a Zach Wilson who's clear that he's got a great head on his shoulders and can develop behind Matt Ryan for a year, maybe two, and really be this team's next franchise guy. I think the number one rule when drafting is that the worst time to draft a quarterback is when you actually need one, and I think that philosophy flies for a lot of teams. And you see teams every so many years. Look at the Browns, so long that they kept drafting quarterbacks because they needed them. Well, it took them how long for one to actually pan out and work? So I think that the Atlanta Falcons take Zach Wilson. He's still the best player on the board at this point, and yeah, he can develop and become a really good player. Next, at the fifth pick, I have the New York Jets that came down with the Cincinnati Bengals taking Justin Fields. I think they would have taken him at 2, but in this scenario, I have them trading down. They might have taken Penei Sewell, depends on how that front office feels about Sam Darnold. I personally am relatively high on Sam Darnold. I really liked him coming out, but I think Justin Fields is just so good that you have to take him. And when you look at Justin Fields, he just feels like a New York Jets quarterback. I don't know how I explain that. It's kind of just a gut reaction. But Justin Fields, he's got the athleticism. He's got all those different things. And the Jets have turned really mediocre quarterbacks into decent quarterbacks before. Look at Mark Sanchez, for example. So yeah, I think Justin Fields could be a great thing. And obviously, now that Adam Gase is there, I think he's actually got a shot to succeed. With the sixth pick, I have the Philadelphia Eagles taking Ja'Marr Chase. I think Ja'Marr Chase is a phenomenal wide receiver. I thought he was better than Justin Jefferson at LSU, so that's something to think about. Obviously, the Eagles passed on Jefferson last year. I don't think they make the same mistake this year. I think they go for Ja'Marr Chase. He can be your number one wide receiver right away. A lot of people are saying quarterback. I think Carson Wentz still has something in there. He would have won an MVP if he didn't get hurt. And also, Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback. Like, they're not phenomenal. Neither of them were phenomenal last year, but they're still decent. They're still serviceable, and quarterback is not a need for this team. Now, a lot of people would also say defensive help. Yes, but I think that you sort out the offense first. You get someone like a Jamar Chase, who can be a very good wide receiver, and you get defensive help later in the draft because there's not going to be a wide receiver like this um, later in the draft. And also, you drafted someone like a Rager last year who you hope can develop into that number two deep threat. With the seventh pick, I have Jalen Waddle going to the Detroit Lions. All three of the receivers are free agents, I do believe. Jalen Waddle is an amazing receiver. Many would have had him as the number one receiver at Bama ahead of Devonta. But, he got hurt this year, and Devonta went on to win the Heisman. So, it's really apples and oranges between these two guys. What do you want more? I think the Lions just say, hey, he's the best receiver on the board. He's the best player on the board. Let's go get him. Because the Lions, although they're looking at shipping Stafford, although they're looking at maybe rebuilding, none of the elite quarterbacks are still here, or the top tier quarterbacks are still here at 7. So I think you take Jalen Waddle just because of how good of a talent he is, how good of a receiver he is, and then you figure out the other stuff later. Stafford isn't a bad quarterback, and I think keeping him around isn't the worst thing that you could do, especially adding someone like a Jalen Waddle to that offense. With the 8th pick, I have the New England Patriots trading up with the Carolina Panthers from 15 to select Trey Lance. Now, this to me is really my shot in the dark choice. I think Trey Lance is a phenomenal quarterback. Obviously, played at the Division two level, which screams Belichick to me. I think he didn't throw a single interception. He's a great game manager. He played at NDSU. I think he's the best quarterback left on the board at this point. He's better than Mac Jones. And if you develop someone like that, maybe you keep Newton on for another season. Maybe you go out and get a Stafford who's not really a long-term option. I think Trey Lance can develop behind them. Or for a couple games, maybe even the season if you keep Cam Newton. But I think Belichick could turn this guy into a really good quarterback. It's clear he's got a really good head on his shoulders. Didn't throw a single interception in one season. So I think that's our last season. I think that's the biggest thing here is that Trey Lance, he has Belichick written all over him. He's a great game manager. He doesn't throw interceptions, and he's very, very good as a quarterback. With the 9th pick, I have my Denver Broncos taking Micah Parsons. And I know this hasn't been mocked a lot. I've watched a couple mock drafts. I think the Broncos need linebacker help. And listen, Von Miller's hurt. He's old and he has a huge cap hit. Our pass rushers are decent. We have Bradley Chubb and maybe Von Miller coming back. We have a decent front end. I think that we need more coverage and outside help. I think Micah does that. He is the best linebacker in this class. I think Denver has done very well at drafting linebackers recently. And I think that we need to get our defense back up to scratch. Obviously, we were hurt by injuries a lot last season, like hammered by injuries last season. And people are saying, oh, you need to help out that offense. Courtland Sutton's going to be back next year, so that's another big target. I'm not out on Drew Lock at this current point, and even if I was, there's no real big quarterbacks here. I think if you're really worried about Drew Lock, you go out and get a Stafford or you get someone like that in, which at the same time I'm like, no, I like Drew Lock a lot. So I think that you improve your secondary, improve your linebacking core with Micah Parsons, and I think that's the right thing to do. With the 10th pick, I have Kyle Pitts going to the Dallas Cowboys. This screams Cowboys to me so much. Jerry Jones loves his weapons. Obviously depends on Dak a lot. Obviously they lost Jason Witten, so they don't really have a really good tight end at the moment. They really wanted Dallas Goedert a couple of years ago. This guy is far and away the best tight end prospect we've seen in a while. I don't know. It's really apples and oranges between him and TJ Hawkinson. I think Kyle Pitts is better than TJ Hawkinson because Kyle Pitts is almost like a receiver, just a bigger receiver. I think the Cowboys could really use him. I think that's a very Cowboys pick to want more weapons. Look, they didn't really need a wide receiver last year, and they took CeeDee Lamb. So clearly they're not adverse to taking great value. I think Kyle Pitts is the best overall player at this point in the draft. And yeah, I think that's a very Jerry Jones pick. With the 11th pick, I have the New York Giants taking Patrick Surtain, best corner in the class. It's really apples and oranges between the next guy too. Spoiler for the Niners, but I think that the Giants need corner help, and the Giants have really struggled drafting corners recently. Look at DeAndre Baker. Look at Eli Apple. Look at all those guys that they have drafted that have really sucked recently. And I think Patrick Surtain is a very good player. He can potentially develop into your number one outside corner. I think that that is something that the Giants need, and it's really something that you need to focus on because the Giants really need defensive help. Obviously, they had some good pieces like Leonard Williams last year, but yeah, I think this guy could be a big step in helping out that secondary. With the 12th pick, I have the San Francisco 49ers taking Caleb Farley. I've seen him and Surtain kind of 1-2. It's kind of like a choice of the road, depends on what you think. I do not think this is an Apple Hargrave situation, Giants fans, so don't worry. I mean, Hargraves hasn't turned out to be anything special either. But yeah, I think San Francisco needs corner help. San Francisco is going to be good depending on injuries. I think they were just ravaged by injuries this year. And even despite that, their secondary, you can always use secondary help. Caleb Farley is a very good player. I think he'd fit in great in this team. Yeah. With the 13th pick, I have someone who fell a little bit for me, Rashawn Slater. I've seen him up higher. I just didn't see a place for him to go. I could see a trade up for him. But I think the Chargers is a great spot. You got to protect Justin Herbert now. He's probably. I don't. A lot of people are saying that he's going to play guard. I think he's a great tackle. I don't know why you do that. He seems like the most refined player. I know Penei Sewell is just a beast, and he's the best tackle prospect we've seen in forever. But Rashawn Slater's got all the skill in the world. You're a little worried that he's 6'3". He's a little bit smaller, but I think that the Chargers can work with him. Obviously, having a new coach down there, you have a great quarterback in Justin Herbert. Yeah, I think it's a good pick. With the 14th pick, I have Kwity Paye going to Minnesota. Minnesota needs edge help. Obviously, Yannick Ngakoue did not work out there. Obviously, they struggled a lot on the defensive front this year. And I think that getting the best edge rusher in the class is really what you should do. If you have a chance to get the best edge rusher in the class, you go for it. Obviously, there's no elite edge rushers this year. You're not talking like Chase Youngs. You're not talking like Bradley Chubb when we saw him coming out. Like, there's not really those guys. No Myles Garrett, but Kwity Paye is a very good player, and I think that he could fit in great. And Zimmer, Zimmer, he loves his defensive guys. So, with the 15th pick, this is from New England. I have the Panthers taking J.C. Horn. It's clear that the Panthers have been improving their defense. They drafted only defensive players last year, and most of that was on the front end, and I think they really need to improve their secondary. Now, I have seen people saying quarterback here. If Trey Lance was here, I would say maybe him. I don't think he'll make it this far. I think New England and Trey Lance is a match made in heaven for both those guys. So I would say that J.C. Horn is the best pick. He's the third best corner on the board. Two are already gone. I'd say corners are tough. They take time to develop, but this is a developing franchise, and I think J.C. Horn has the tools to develop into a very good player. And if you want to compete in the future as with the Carolina Panthers, I think he's the guy. With the 16th pick, I have the Arizona Cardinals taking Christian Darrisaw. It's clear the Cardinals could have drafted tackle last year. I think a lot of people had them drafting tackle last year. Isaiah Simmons was on the board, so you take Isaiah Simmons. That's basically it. And this year, I think they make up for that, and they take Christian Darrisaw. I think they need some tackle help. Obviously, Kyler Murray has been running for his life for 2 seasons that he's been in the league. Yeah, I think you just improve that tackle help. I'm sure he can play guard if you need him to. I'm sure he's a good tackle. Like really, any offensive line help is positive. Even if they're backups, even if they turn out to bust and they become like rotational pieces, like even still, that's something that can really help your franchise and protect the quarterback. And I think Christian Darrisaw is a very good tackle, and he should improve that. At 17, I have the Las Vegas. God, that feels weird. Raiders taking Azeez Ojulari, second best edge rusher in this class. Gruden grinder. Gruden loves having a lot of edge rushers. I know that they have Clelin Ferrell and Max Crosby. I forget what his first name is. But I think that Gruden could always use more edge help, rotational pieces. Clelin Ferrell is kind of busted based on where they took him. They overdrafted him. I think the Raiders, you can never have enough pass rushing. You can always move guys around on the defensive front. You can always change scheme, and you can always have guys pop in. I think this guy is a very good developmental piece, and I think you could turn him into a very good edge rusher. Again, none of these edge rushers in this class are really plug and play day one, like beast, like a Chase Young, like a Myles Garrett. So, really, if you just need some edge help, you take a guy like this, and the Raiders do need some edge help. With the 18th pick, I have the Miami Dolphins taking Gregory Rousseau. Again, another good edge rusher. I think he's being over projected a little bit. I've seen him up near rank 10. I think that's a little generous. I think he's a good edge rusher. I think Miami could develop into a really good edge rusher. This Miami team has proven that they can develop guys. I really like Brian Flores. I think that he could really use someone like a Gregory Rousseau. He's a very good athlete, very, very long, all those different things coming off the edge. And I think that despite the New England scheme, I think Gregory Rousseau is a developmental piece, and you can change who he is, and you can develop who he is as a player. And I think that Miami could use edge help. Miami could use all the help except for maybe quarterback, but I think that in this draft you go out, you get a wide receiver, and you get edge help. Like there's no problem with that. At 19, I have the Washington football team taking Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. Probably butchered that, but he's probably the second best linebacker in the class behind Micah Parsons. I couldn't find a landing spot for him, so I'd say he's probably the biggest fall. I think he's ranked around 13 by PFF, so it's a little bit of a fall, but not crazy. Washington could use some defensive help, some linebacker help. Obviously, they had some decent corner play last year. They had some decent front end play. Ryan Kerrigan's still decent. Chase Young is looking like a beast. Deron Payne looks all right in the center. Like, they got some guys on the defensive end. I think their linebacker core does need some work, though. And if someone like Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is on the board, you take him, plain and simple. At 20, I have the Chicago Bears taking Rashad Bateman, wide receiver out of Minnesota. I know people are screaming quarterback with this Bears team. I think you also need a second piece. Allen Robinson can't do it all alone. You need some weapons there. And Rashad Bateman is a very good player. I think he's at best a number 2 guy if you develop him. But to that same token, when you sit behind someone like an Allen Robinson, you don't expect him to be that number 1 guy. And I think that the Bears could use weapons. They really only had one weapon last year. So wide receiver is a premium position. You go out and you get it. And sometimes you have to overdraft wide receivers to fill needs. At 21, I have the Indianapolis Colts saying Elijah Vera Tucker out of USC. He's a tackle. This is really just because Costanzo retired. The Colts have really needed to work on their offensive line. Obviously, it cost them Andrew Luck's promising career with all those injuries. Obviously, Phil Rivers is gone, so many people would probably say quarterback. I didn't think Jacoby Brissett was that bad when he played for the Colts, and I think that you can go out and get someone if you don't like Jacoby Brissett. And also, I think that there's no one really here worth getting, because you're going to have to probably play them year 1 if you get them. And I think Mac Jones isn't really the play here, if I'm honest. So I think you get tackle help. I think the Colts have proven they can develop offensive linemen. Look at Quentin Nelson. They got the best guard in the league. So, I think that this is a great spot, and it's probably great for Tucker too if he gets here. At 22, I have the Tennessee Titans taking Christian Barmore. They need some front help on the front. Getting a big D tackle is really one way to do that. Stopping the run is a big thing. Obviously, they know how crucial a run game can be when their whole offense centers around Derrick Henry. But I think getting some front help would be a great idea. Obviously, you're not going quarterback here because you gave Tannehill the money boat, and you move forward with the D tackle. And I think this is just another safe pick. We've seen this with Dexter Lawrence. We've seen it plenty of times in recent years that this is a safe pick. They do bust occasionally, but I think that D tackle is a safe place to put your draft capital, and I think that run stopping is something that's becoming more and more important. At 23, this is from the Jamal Adams trade. I have the New York Jets taking Alex Leatherwood. Mekhi Becton was a big hit last year, and I think that you could get another guy on the offensive line in Alex Leatherwood. I think he could be your second tackle. If the Jets come away with a tackle and Justin Fields, I think this is what you really want. Maybe you go wide receiver here. I'm not ready to say Tony at 23 yet. I do have him in the first round, but I don't think he's really the play here. I think you can get temporary wide receiver help in free agency if you need it. Um, but I think tackle is more important because you already get them. You get the fifth year option on a tackle if they hit, if you get them in the first round. And tackles are harder to come by than wide receivers. So I think that this is a great pick. Leatherwood, obviously, from that coveted Alabama offensive line, and you can really put him on the other side of Becton and really build a really good offensive line there in New York and protect the quarterback. At 24, I have Mac Jones to the Steelers. Now, Ben Roethlisberger for me is finished, and that Browns game proved it. I think that Mason Rudolph is at best. I liked him coming out a lot, and I liked him last year when he played a little bit. I thought he would do a lot better than he did. Um, but I think Mac Jones is the play here, and I think that you put him behind Ben Roethlisberger. He learns from Ben Roethlisberger. He's clearly got a good head on his shoulders. Clearly a very smart quarterback, very good quarterback. Nearly won the Heisman this year. Obviously comes from Alabama, so he'll need to adjust to the NFL, not having the best player at every single position. But yeah, I think he could be a very good player, and I think that the Steelers really draft quarterbacks every now and then, and they are really good at developing them. And they had Ben Roethlisberger fall into their laps when he drafted him. They had Mason Rudolph fall into the third round when they took him. And again, this goes like maybe quarterback is a need for these guys, but at the same time, I don't think it's such a pressing need that I think that you can develop Mac Jones into something special. At 25, I have the Jacksonville Jaguars taking Joseph Asai. More edge help for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think they're trying to build something fresh and new. Obviously, they have Josh Allen there. They did trade Yannick Ngakoue away. They did get Clavon Chase on last year. But I think that Josh Allen is more of an outside linebacker, edge hybrid almost. Joseph Asai is more of that plug and play edge rusher. I think that this is really just helping out scheme, helping out edge. Obviously, you can never have enough pass rushers. You can never have enough help on the defensive end in that respect. You can always move guys around. And yeah, I think getting more edge help is really important, especially in this day and age when quarterbacks are mobile, when the passing attack is so important. And you have to be able to get after the quarterback. And if you can develop Joseph Asai into a good edge rusher, then I think you take that chance here, especially when Jacksonville has no expectations. And I know many people would say offensive tackle here. I just don't think it lined up on my board. So maybe you could see a trade up on draft day. I didn't see an opportunity for that, but yeah. At 26, I have the Cleveland Browns taking Zaven Collins. Cleveland needs linebacker help. They had a very good season this year, but I think that their offense is basically sorted for the most part, especially in skill positions. I just think you need more help on the defensive end. Your corners are good. You got Denzel Ward. And now you add another linebacker to this equation. I think that this is another great thing. Obviously, the Browns really just need linebackers. I think you shoot on the best linebacker available in Zaven Collins. I think this is really just where does the board line up with the pick, and if you need linebackers, you take this guy, plain and simple. At 27, I have the Baltimore Ravens taking Kadarius Toney. I know it's a little bit of an overdraft. I think Kadarius Toney is ranked as like a top, very early second rounder. But at the same time, Baltimore really needs weapons. I don't think Hollywood has turned into like that plug and play number one receiver that they wanted him to. But at the same time, he's not bad, and I think that they've been relying on pretty bad weapons for a long time. And Kadarius Toney could be that guy who does do those little. He's very good after the catch. He's very good getting open. He's very good at being that secondary weapon. I think he could be that secondary weapon behind Hollywood and really help this Ravens team thrive because it's clear Lamar needs some more weapons. They don't really have a very good wide receiver there. And, you might as well shoot on the best wide receiver on the board when you don't have a lot of other needs. So at 28, I have the New Orleans Saints taking Nick Bolton. There's not really a spot for quarterback. I know Drew Brees is retired, but um, I really think that their linebacker core could use some help. Obviously, they're really aging, and I think adding, like, when you have an aging core and you're still trying to go for it, I don't know if they're going to try and go for it necessarily next year. Maybe they bring in someone like a Stafford if Brees retires, and you're like, yeah, let's go for it again. Um, so getting someone like a Nick Bolton, getting a linebacker with a lot of energy, really helps out. I think that these are the positions that really energize your team. Marcus Davenport is a great example of that with the Saints team. And I think that this is really just another push towards, um, if you want some developmental guys in here, because I think Nick Bolton is a developmental guy, you can have that transition and you don't have to be start tanking for a bit. Like, you have obviously have an aging core, but in football the beauty of it is you can replace that aging core with young exciting guys, and I think Nick Bolton's one of those guys. At 29, I have the Green Bay Packers taking Tyson Campbell, corner out of Georgia. I think that apart from Jair Alexander, I think that's who it was, yeah, Green Bay needs corner help. And I think that we saw this um, in the NFC Championship game um, against the Buccaneers. Brady torched them. And I think that this Green Bay team really needs to start drafting for need really badly. And I know people would say wide receiver or linebacker or whatever, stopping the run. Yes, but at the end of the day, it was your pass defense that really cost you this year. And I think that your offense is really good. Alan Lazard stepped up, MBS stepped up, and obviously Devontae Adams is a god. And you have like three running backs there. So I think that you can address maybe getting a second wide receiver or linebacker in free agency, unless you, because you're losing an offensive lineman off the books. You're losing possibly Aaron Jones off, one of Aaron Jones or a lineman off the books, and you can bring in extra defensive help to make sure you don't get torched again. Obviously, corners take a while to develop, so I wouldn't be too overly ambitious with this guy. But I think if you can develop him into a very good cornerback, don't be the Giants and with DeAndre Baker and ruin another Georgia corner who has some potential. I think Tyson Campbell has some potential, and Green Bay has proven they can develop corners sometimes. So, yeah. At 30, I have the Buffalo Bills taking Pat Freiermuth, tight end out of Penn State. Buffalo doesn't have any real pressing needs, so I think getting Josh Allen, a big body tight end that you can use, would be phenomenal. I think Josh Allen has never really had a tight end in the league. I think his connection with Stephon Diggs has been amazing, but I think Buffalo has never had that big body target, and I think that Pat would really change that for this Buffalo team. Obviously, he comes from a northern school, so he won't be too bad playing in the cold. I know that's not a big thing, but I think Buffalo could use that, and I think Josh Allen, despite him being a deep threat, chuck it deep type quarterback, I think that having a big body is always nice. You see Tony Romo, the gambler that he was, always had Jason Witten to get those first downs, to get those touchdowns. He wasn't just chucking it up to Dez all the time. And I think that Josh Allen, getting him more weapons, may take away from Stephon's numbers, but at the same time, it's going to help you win games. At 31, I know this kind of shows who I think is going to win the Super Bowl, but at 31, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking Najee Harris, running back out of Alabama. He's the best running back in the class. Tampa Bay doesn't really have any crazy needs. You could go quarterback. I don't know if there's anyone here that you'd want to take that you couldn't get in the second round, or that you couldn't trade up to get in the second round. And Najee Harris is just a beast, man. He's phenomenal. So I think that he's whatever you think of him, he's just an amazing football player. Tampa has proven, despite how many running backs they got with Fournette and whatever, they haven't really had that three down back. Najee Harris could be that. He's been phenomenal at Alabama, and I think that he'd fit well. He's just a track star, man. And I know that Travis Etienne is also in this class, but I think Najee's the better prospect, and I think Etienne will go somewhere in the second round. And finally, at 32, I have Samuel Cosmi offensive tackle from Texas, going to the Kansas City Chiefs. I think this is an interesting play because um, the Chiefs don't really have any needs. I think they're going to win the Super Bowl again this year. And I think that getting more offensive line help is always a bonus. Offensive linemen go down at numbers way higher than any position, at least that's based on the eye test for me. Getting tackle help is always nice. Getting developmental tackle help is always nice. Getting a guy on a fifth-year option at the tackle position, always nice. So I think that this just makes sense from a GM's perspective. It makes sense from a team perspective, and it makes sense that you'd get a tackle in this position. And if you continue to be the juggernaut that the Kansas City Chiefs are, I think that drafting these high-end positions, like these hard positions to get, and developing these guys is really going to help you become you can become like a dynasty. You can develop into one of those teams. So, yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you think in the comment section. I really appreciate all the feedback, and yeah, please like, share, subscribe. I'm going to be doing these throughout the draft process. There's likely going to be a lot of changes to this. Obviously, this is very early. I'm probably very wrong, and I know that. So let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know who you want your team to try.